Hope we can see my screen now. Yes.
This meeting is being
Good
recorded.
evening, all. In the last class, we discussed about what is storage and how to perform storage in the AWS cloud. In the AWS, for storage purpose, we have one service that is called S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. Now, by using S3, we can store the data in the form of objects. In the S3, we are going to create the buckets. Unlimited data you can store from any location, any amount of data. Any amount of data you can store into AWS S3. Okay. Now, yesterday we have created a bucket and we have stored some data also in that bucket, and we are able to access the data by using that URL. Now, let me create one more bucket now. Guys, observe. I'm trying to create a bucket. As we discussed yesterday, every bucket should have a unique name. Now I'm giving Ashok IT S3 bucket. I'm choosing this name. This S3 is a global service. The buckets are regional. Whenever we are creating this bucket, we need to specify you want to create the bucket in which region. Currently, I have Mumbai region which is nearest to me. So I'm selecting Mumbai region, and bucket object ownership ACLs enabled access control list. Object ownership bucket owner is preferred. Block all public access. So if you don't change this checkbox, then by default it will be private. Other people cannot access this outside. Now, when I uncheck this checkbox, that means I am giving the public access for that. Fine. Whenever you uncheck this checkbox, you need to agree for the license. Acknowledgement you need to do. Here there is a concept called bucket versioning is available. What is the meaning of bucket versioning? Versioning is a means of keeping multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. Simple example, I'm going to create one bucket. So assume that this is my S3 bucket. I'm going to create one S3 bucket. Inside this S3 bucket, I'm storing one file that is called f1.txt, which contains some data. Now, assume that this is version 1 of that file. I have created a file. I have stored that file in the S3 bucket. That bucket is storing that file. That object, the file that I'm storing is called as the object. Now, after a few days, I have modified some content in that file. I want to store that file. Then, same file I can store. Then that file will become version 2. Version 2. Same file I'm storing after one more week. I'm modifying some other changes in the file. Then I am making it as version 3. So version 1, version 2, version 3. So you can use the versioning also in the S3 buckets for the files. Versioning is like a backup tool. First, I have created a file yesterday. Yesterday file I have stored in the S3 bucket, that is f1.txt. Yesterday that file is having some data. Today I have modified that file data. When I have modified that file data, I want to store that same file with another version. I want yesterday's file and I want the today's file also. And today evening at 4 o'clock, I have done some changes to that file. I'm going to store that file also. Same file we can store with multiple versions in the S3 bucket. That is called versioning. Versioning is enabled or disabled by default in the S3. In the S3, versioning is used to keep multiple variants of the same object in the same bucket. What is the purpose of this versioning? We can use versioning to preserve, retrieve, and restore every version of every object stored in Amazon S3 bucket. With versioning, you can easily recover from both unintended user actions or application failures. By mistake, if somebody deleted some object in the bucket, then you can restore that object by using versioning concept. But by default, the versioning is disabled in the S3. If you want, you can enable that version. So whenever you are creating the bucket, then itself it is asking Do you want to enable the versioning for this bucket or not? Do you want to enable versioning for this bucket or not? When you enable versioning for this bucket, when you upload the same file again, it is going to update with the version. It is going to update with the version. Now see here guys, we discussed about that S3 buckets, creating a bucket. Already one bucket is available. I'm going to create another bucket now. Bucket name I'm choosing Ashok IT S3 bucket. You need to give the unique name for this, as we discussed yesterday. Ashok IT S3 bucket I am giving. Region is the Mumbai. Ownership ACL enabled. Object owner preferred. Unblock this. Block public access. Remove this. Accept it. Versioning by default disabled. Today let me enable it. Versioning means it is a backup tool. I've given some 3 points here. What is versioning? What is versioning? Versioning is a backup tool which is used to store the multiple variants of same object in the S3 bucket. Versioning is like a backup tool. It is used to store. It is used to store multiple variants of same object in the bucket. In the bucket. By default, versioning is not enabled on the bucket. Versioning is enabled on the bucket level but applied on the object level. We are enabling the bucket. We are enabling the versioning at the bucket level. Once you enable this versioning at the bucket level, then it will be applied for each object we are going to upload into that object. Bucket by default versioning is disabled. I'm enabling it. Okay. Encryption technique by default it is disabled. Advanced settings, object lock. Do you want to lock that object? Store objects using write once, read many. S3 will follow warm model. Write once, read many times. Help you to prevent objects from being deleted or overwritten for a fixed amount of time or indefinitely. If you want to lock the objects, that means I don't want other people to delete my objects. I want to secure them. Then you can enable lock also on the object. Okay, you can enable lock also on the object. Those things are available here. Okay, so by default versioning is disabled. So if you want, you can enable that. You can enable that versioning. Now I'm going to enable it. I'm not giving any tag. Encryption is disabled. Advanced settings, object lock is disabled by default. Then create the bucket. Now my bucket is created. Ashok IT S3 bucket is created. See here, in this bucket currently I don't have any object. I want to add some object into this bucket. Let me create one file. Let me take one text file, notepad. Hi, how are you? I'm just writing some data. Hi, how are you? Let me save this file on the desktop with a name called f1.txt. I have created a file with a name called f1.txt. I want to upload that file. Any flat file you can upload into S3 bucket. I have created this bucket. Bucket is created in the region. S3 is global, but bucket is regional. I have created a bucket. Go inside this bucket. Now, here there are some properties available for the bucket. What is the bucket versioning? What are the tags? What is the encryption? What is the accessing? What are the cloud trials? Event notification, transfer acceleration, object locking, static website hosting, like that. There are several options are available. Permissions, objects can be public. All public block the public access is off. That means that bucket is public now. People can access that bucket. People can access that bucket. Metrics available, total bucket size, total number of objects. You can analyze how much data you stored. Management, lifecycle rules you can configure, replication rules you can configure. Okay, access points available. All these options we can see. Now currently my bucket is empty. I want to store some data into my bucket. Upload. You can upload a file or you can upload a folder also into this bucket. Now add the file. I have created a file with a name called f1.txt. Now select this file, click on permissions here, permissions available. My private is the recommended. That object cannot be accessed by other people. If you want the people to access your object, then you can give the public access for them. Grant public read access. I'm selecting that. Properties. Here, whenever you are selecting the object, you need to select the storage class. We will come to the storage classes later. Okay, I have created a bucket. For the bucket, I have enabled versioning. What is the purpose of versioning? Versioning is like a backup tool. It is used to store multiple variants of same object in the bucket. By default, versioning is not enabled on the bucket. Versioning is enabled on the bucket but applied on the object. When we upload the same file multiple times, then versions will be created. Okay, if somebody deleted original object by mistake, for latest version delete marker label will be applied. We can recover the deleted objects also if you have enabled this versioning concept. Okay, now let us upload this file. I'm not choosing any storage class, guys. By default, I am making one object with a public access. Click on upload. Click on upload. Close it. Now, can you see f1.txt file is applied? F1.txt file is applied here. Now, let me modify the same file again. Let me modify the same file again, and we will upload once again. We will see versions will be created or not. Now, I have uploaded one file. Can we call this as one object in the bucket? Can we call this as one object in the bucket? I have uploaded one file with name called f1.txt. Can I call this as one object?
Yes.
S3 will store the data in the form of objects. Yes, we can say that one object is uploaded to S3 bucket. Can I copy this URL? Yes. Can I give this URL for you? Can you guys access my object available in the S3 bucket? Can you click on that URL? Whatever the URL I have given, can you click on that URL? Can you access that? Can you access that, guys? Can you access that? Please respond in the chat. Are you able to access the URL which I have given? Yes, that URL is available. That URL is available. You can access. Now here there is a option called share with a pre-signed URL. Here, whenever you upload any object into S3 bucket, one URL will be generated. That is a global URL. That is called bucket endpoint, object endpoint. By using this object endpoint, you can access that object if it is having public access. Now, there is a concept called share with the pre-signed URL. Now, pre-signed URL, anyone can access this object with a pre-signed URL until it expires, even if the bucket and objects are private. Okay, time interval until the pre-signed URL expires. Now, minutes, hours, number of minutes, number of hours. If I give 3, create pre-signed URL. Now, here I'm going to get one pre-signed URL, guys. Copy pre-signed URL. With this URL, you can access my bucket. This URL will be available only for 3 minutes access. That means I'm giving you this URL. That URL will be accessible only for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, that URL will be expired. After 3 minutes, that URL will be expired. Okay, it is very long in the length, guys. That's why I'm unable to copy that. Oh my God. This is pre-signed URL of my object. What is the meaning of a pre-signed URL? Pre-signed URL means I will provide the access for my object for limited period of time. I will provide the access for my object for limited period of time. Now, let me give that in our Telegram. I'm going to post this link, guys. Now, can you click on that link? Can you access my file? Can you click on that link and can you access my file? Go to the Telegram. I have posted in our Telegram. Can you access that link now? Can you guys access that link now, which I have given in the Telegram? Come on. Yes or no? Now, what is the meaning of that pre-signed URL? What is the meaning of that pre-signed URL? Pre-signed URL meaning nothing but I want to provide the access for my object for limited period of time. I will give only 1 hour access for that URL. Within 1 hour you need to access. After 1 hour, that URL will expire. You cannot access. That means I want to provide the access for the people for limited period of time for my object. Then you can go for pre-signed URL concept. Then you can go for what, guys? Pre-signed URL concept. When you go for pre-signed URL, what is pre-signed URL? What is a pre-signed URL? See here, when you create share with a pre-signed URL, pre-signed URL means you are going to specify the time limit for your object to access for the people. Now I'm going to create now. So some people will tell you, whenever you go for register some account in any website, they will tell you you need to confirm your email by clicking on this link. This link is valid only for 24 hours. After the 24 hours, that link will expire. Have you received any such kind of mails? This link will be valid only for 24 hours. After that, that link will expire. Did you get that kind of emails? Yes, that is called pre-signed URL. In the S3, for our object, we can create pre-signed URL. Pre-signed URL means limited period of time that URL will be available. Limited period of time that URL will be available. I'm going to give the access now. Can you try accessing that URL now?
No.
What is happening? Can you try that URL now?
Request has expired.
Pre-signed URL, can you access now?
No, access denied.
Guys, can you access it now? Tell me what's happening. When you access that pre-signed URL, what is happening? Can you tell me now? Are you able to access?
No.
In the Telegram, I have given one link for you. Click on that link now. Click on that link now. Are you able to access that URL? What it is saying? Denied. Why it is saying denied? Why it is saying
Because
denied?
time has expired.
Why it is saying denied? I have given 3 minutes access for the URL. After 3 minutes,
After 3
that
minutes, the time will be
URL got expired. That is called pre-signed URL. Guys, remember one point. We are creating S3 bucket in order to store our files. Every file we store in the S3 is called as one object. For every object, one URL will be generated. That is called endpoint URL. By using that URL, anybody can access. That is a public URL. That is a public URL. Now, there may be a scenario. I want to share the URL for the people for limited period of time. I want to share that URL for the people for limited period of time. Now, I want to give the access for my objects for 1 hour. Within 1 hour, if you want, you can access that. After 1 hour, that URL is going to expire. That is called pre-signed URL. We can create the pre-signed URL for our objects. How to create the pre-signed URL? Check it here. Select this. Select the object for which you want to create the pre-signed URL. Select this. Go to actions, share with a pre-signed URL. I want to share my object to the people with the pre-signed URL. Share with the pre-signed URL. It is asking how much time you want to give for the people to access. Do you want to set the limit within the minutes of time, or do you want to set the limit within the hours of time? Here we have two options. Minutes option available, hours option is available. If I give you 1 minute, that URL will be generated, that URL will be available, access for 1 minute. After that 1 minute, that URL will expire. After 1 minute, you cannot access my object. So that is a concept of pre-signed URL. That's fine. Now tell me, my bucket is having a versioning or my bucket doesn't have a versioning? I have created a bucket. My bucket is having a versioning or my bucket doesn't have a versioning?
My bucket is versioning.
My bucket is having some versioning. Can you tell me what is the purpose of versioning in the S3? If you want to store multiple variants of the same file, then you can go for versioning concept. If you want to store multiple variants of the same object, then you can go for versioning. By default, that versioning is disabled. If you want, you can enable. I have enabled versioning for my bucket. Versioning will be enabled at the bucket level. It will be applied at the object level. I enabled versioning for my Ashok ID S3 bucket. Then what all the objects you upload in the bucket, for those objects, versioning will be enabled. Okay. Now here, there is an option called show versions. Show versions. Now f1.txt is available. Now can you see? There is a version ID. whenever you enable a versioning for the bucket, then for every object, for every upload, one version ID will be generated. Now let me go to this file and let me modify this f1.txt. Hi, how are you is available. Hi, how are you? Where do you stay? Where do you stay? I'm writing other content in the file. I have modified file content. I want to upload that file once again. Add file,
then
add file, f1.txt, upload it,
Yes.
upload it.
Then
File is uploaded. Close this.
Then
Now
check.
show versions. Can you see that?
Yeah.
2 versions created for the file?
Yes.
Can you see that? 2 versions created for the file or not?
715
2 versions created for the file or not? Yes or no? Now, same file I have uploaded. I have uploaded at 19:15. I have uploaded 7:15. I have uploaded f1.txt. Then after I have uploaded at 7:25. At 7:15 I have uploaded. At 7:25 also I uploaded the same file. I have modified the file content. I have uploaded that file. So if you want to upload same file with multiple variants, then you can go for versioning concept in the S3. Versioning I have enabled at the bucket level. It is applying at the object level. Now let's take one example. I'm going to select this. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to select this file which I have recently uploaded. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this. Whatever the object I have uploaded, I'm going to delete this object. Permanently delete the object. Very good. I have deleted my object. I have deleted my object here. Are you guys able to understand this? Now go to buckets, S3 buckets, S3 buckets, show versions, f1.txt file is available, version ID is available, storage class is available, properties, bucket versioning is there, bucket versioning is enabled, tags, default encryption, now permissions, objects, show versions, one version is there, action, there is the recovery option, f1.txt, object actions, object URL, additional checksums, metadata, object log, okay, somewhere there will be an option where you can get that. Deleting the specified objects cannot be undone. Permanently delete these objects. There should be a delete marker whenever we delete the object. I think that option is not available here. Show all versions. Let me upload the file once again. Add the file f1.txt. Select it. Permissions. Public access. Properties. Storage class. Upload. Close this. Now show the versions. 2 versions I have uploaded for this. Now copy this URL, properties, permissions, object is public. Yeah, guys, in the previous version, when we delete the object, it will create a delete marker when I delete this object. Every version will have a unique ID. When we delete the original object, then it will create a delete marker on the latest version. So to restore our object, we have to delete the delete marker. I think currently this delete marker is not displaying. Click on delete, deleting this file. Type permanently delete. Let me delete it. Delete the object. I have deleted. Failed to delete. Yeah. Close. That object got deleted. Selected actions. The latest version is available, previous version is deleted. Guys, I will check it. How can we recover that versioning? Even we have enabled the versioning. Whatever I have deleted, there should be one option called delete marker. That a delete marker option is not displaying now. To recover that, I want to recover the file whatever I have deleted. So to recover that, it should create one option called a delete marker. The delete marker option is not displaying for me. That file is deleted permanently. That file is deleted permanently, but previously, whenever we delete the original file, it will create a delete marker option. Whenever we delete the delete marker, then we can recover. Let me read the documentation of AWS. Maybe they might have changed something in the S3 bucket policy. Let me check it and I will update you. How can we? Once we delete that original file, then earlier it used to create a delete marker on the original file. Then if you delete the delete marker, then original file will be restored. Now currently it is not creating the delete marker. I will check why the delete marker is not creating. When I deleted the one version of the object, permanently that object got deleted from the S3. So we are able to enable versioning. Versioning is used to store multiple variants of the same file. Now for our object, we are able to create pre-signed URL also. What is the meaning of a pre-signed URL? What is the meaning of pre-signed URL? That URL will be available for limited access. The limited access URLs also we are able to create. Now let's look at some points related to the versioning. Versioning is like a backup tool. It is used to store multiple variants of the same object in the bucket. By default, versioning is not enabled on the bucket. Versioning is enabled on bucket level but applied on the object level. If you enable versioning for a bucket, then it will be applied for the every object you upload in that bucket. Okay. Now, when we upload same file, if you upload a file with the same name with the versioning enabled, then multiple variants will be created, multiple versions will be created. Every version will have its own ID. Now suppose for example, if I upload f1.txt, I'm uploading f1.txt. Now I'm uploading f2.txt, f1.txt and f2.txt. If I upload f1.txt for 3 times, then version 3 will be the latest. If I upload this one for 2 times, then f2 is the latest version. F3 is the latest version here, version 3 is the latest version, version 2 is the latest version for F1 and F2. If somebody deleted my original object by mistake, for latest version, delete marker label will be applied. Currently that is not applying, guys. This point is not able to replicate. I will check why it is not replicated. Right. Now, whenever we upload a file with a version, then version ID will be generated for that file. Every version ID will be unique. Suppose if you upload the same file for 10 times, then 10 versions will be created, 10 version IDs will be created, version ID will be unique. Version ID will be unique. Versioning files we can download at any time. Now, whenever you delete a original file, delete marker will be created on the latest version. If we delete the delete marker, then that file will be restored. Okay. If you want the object to be restored, delete the delete marker and your object will be restored. Currently the delete marker is not creating. You cannot download the delete marker version, you can only delete it. Once you have enabled the versioning, you cannot disable it, you can only suspend it. Now I have enabled versioning for my bucket. I have enabled versioning for my bucket. Can I disable the versioning now? Can I disable the versioning for my bucket? Bucket properties. Bucket versioning is there. Edit. Can I disable the versioning?
No.
Do I have a disable option
No.
for the versioning?
Only suspend option will
Come on.
be applied.
You can suspend it. You can suspend it. That means I already created a bucket with the versioning. I have already created a bucket with the versioning. Now for my bucket, I want to disable the versioning. Can we disable the versioning for the bucket?
No.
You cannot. See here, when you go to the bucket properties, here bucket versioning is available. Currently, that bucket versioning is enabled. When I click on edit, I cannot disable it. I can only suspend it. I can only suspend it. What is the meaning of suspend? This suspends the creation of object version for all operations, but preserves any object versions. If the previous objects which are having the versions, they will be available as it is. For new objects, versioning will not be available. That means I'm stopping the versioning. I cannot disable the versioning. I can only suspend. Why? Because in the bucket there may be some objects with the versioning. So that is the reason they have not given the disable option. They have given the suspend option. If you do the suspend, then for the new objects, the versioning will not be applied. Once you enable versioning for your bucket, once you enable the versioning, you cannot disable it. You can only suspend it. Okay. AWS charges for versioning. Be careful while you enable versioning for huge files, because whenever you enable the versioning, if that file is a huge file, then AWS will apply some charges for you, because AWS is providing the storage to store your data. If you store a huge amount of data, then you need to pay the money for the AWS. Okay, you are storing huge amount of data and you are enabling the versioning also, then bill will be generated for you. Under free tier, you can upload 5 GB of data, up to 5 GB of data in the S3. If you upload more than that, then bill will be generated. So if you are uploading the files into the bucket, by default versioning is not enabled. If you want that versioning, you can enable. How much data you can store in the S3? In the S3 we can store unlimited data. In S3 we can store unlimited data. Okay. Now, so with this we understood what is S3 bucket and what are objects in the S3, how to store a object, what is object endpoint, and what is pre-signed URL, what is versioning, how to enable the versioning, and how to suspend the versioning. That part we have discussed. Are you clear with the versioning concept? Are you guys clear with the versioning concept in the S3 buckets?
Yes.
S3 is a storage which is used to store unlimited data. From any location, any amount of data you can store in the S3. From any location, any amount of data you can store in the S3. S3 is unlimited data storage service in the AWS. Now, whenever you want to store the data in the S3, you need to create the bucket. Buckets are regional. In the buckets, you can store objects. Object means a file. Objects can be private. If you want, you can make them as a public. Whenever you upload any file into the S3 bucket, one URL will be generated. A bucket will have a URL. Object also will have a URL. We can create some limited period URLs also by using pre-signed URL concept. Object by default will not have a versioning. If you want to enable versioning, because if you want to upload multiple variants of the file, then you can enable the versioning. Versioning is enabled at the bucket level, but it is applied at the object level. Got it? Fine. Next one. Guys, see here, whenever I am uploading a file, when I am uploading a file into, suppose for example, I want to upload one file. Okay, f1.txt file I am uploading. By default, destination details, bucket versioning is not available now. Encryption is disabled. Object lock is also disabled. If you want, you can enable bucket versioning. Okay. Now, for this file, versioning is not available because I have already suspended that versioning. I have already suspended that versioning in the S3 bucket. Here, permissions, access control list. By default, it will be private, only object owner will have the read and write access. I'm giving public read access. Public read access means anybody can access my object with the URL. That is fine. Next one, come to properties. There is a important point, guys. There is a important point. Specify storage class. Specify storage class. Standard class is available. Intelligent tiering available. Standard IA. One zone IA. Glacier instant retrieval. Glacier flexible retrieval. Glacier deep archive. Reduced redundancy. Like that, there are so many storage classes are available in the S3 buckets. Now, sir, what is that storage class? Let's understand. Let's understand. I want to store the data into S3 bucket. Every customer will have same requirement, or every customer will have different requirement.
Every customer has a different requirement.
Every customer will have same requirement. Every customer will have different requirements. Every customer will have same requirements. Every customer will have different requirements. Can you tell me?
Every customer has the
Can you tell me, guys? Every customer will have a same requirement to store the data. Every customer will have different requirements. Come on.
Every customer has a different
Business to business, the requirement is going to be different. Business to business, the requirement is going to be different. Now, you see here, customer 1 wants to store the data into AWS, unlimited data. Customer 1 wants to store unlimited data into AWS. To store the unlimited data into AWS, we have a concept called S3 bucket. S3 service is available. Simple storage service. What is the purpose of simple storage service? Simple storage service is used to store unlimited data. Now, first customer, assume that there are 3 customers are there. 3 customers are there. They are having 3 different requirements. 3 customers are there. They are having 3 different requirements. Customer 1 wants to store the data, wants to access the data very frequently. He wants to store the data and he wants to access the data also. Customer 2 wants to store the data but wants to access the data rarely. Now, first customer wants to access the data daily. Second customer wants to access the data monthly once. Third customer wants to access the data yearly once. That is called historical data. Now, I have some data, guys. I have some data. I want to store some data into my S3 bucket. Will I access the data every day? Some data I may access every day. Some data I may access monthly once. Some data I will access yearly once. Let's assume that your childhood pics are available. You have so many images. Your childhood images are available. Will you see your childhood images every day? Are you going to in your mobile? Assume that in your mobile you have so many images. Are you going to see last year images every day? No, no. No. You will not see that. So you may have a different requirements when you are storing the data into S3. See here, in order to understand customer requirement, AWS provided storage classes. Now, when you are uploading some object into S3 bucket, you need to tell to AWS how frequently you want to access that object. Do you want to access that object daily? Do you want to access that object weekly once? Do you want to access that object monthly once? Do you want to access that object yearly once? How you want to access the data? Based on number of times you are going to access the data, the bill will be generated. AWS is going to store the data and AWS is going to provide the data for you. AWS is giving storage capacity for you, unlimited storage. Any amount of data you can store. Any amount of data you can store. But how many times you are going to retrieve the data from the S3 bucket, based on that bill will be generated. Are you getting my point? How many times you are going to access the data, based on that bill will be generated for you. Okay, if you are accessing the data daily, then more bill will be generated. If you are accessing the data yearly once, then less bill will be generated. Now here, storage classes will tell how frequently you want to access the data. Now see here, while uploading while uploading objects into S3, selecting storage class is mandatory. While uploading objects into S3, selecting the storage class is mandatory. Some customers want to store and wants to access the data frequently. Some other customers want to store the data but don't want to access frequently. We cannot charge the same bill for both customers because they have different business requirements. Now, here guys, customer 1 is storing the data, customer 1 is accessing the data daily. Customer 2 storing the data, accessing it monthly once. Customer 3 storing the historical data, accessing yearly once. Can we do same charge for all the 3 customers? Can we generate the same bill amount for all the 3 customers who are using AWS? Come on. First customer storing the data, accessing daily. Second customer storing the data, accessing monthly once. Third customer storing the data, accessing yearly once. Can we do charge for all the 3 customers in the same manner? Can we apply the same bill amount? Can we apply the same bill amount for all the 3 customers? Come on. Can we apply the same bill amount for all the 3 customers? Guys, come on, please respond. Please respond. Can we apply the same bill amount for all the 3 customers, or we should not apply the same bill amount for all the 3 customers? We cannot apply the same bill because first customer accessing daily, then he need to pay more money. Second customer accessing monthly one, he will pay less amount. Second, third customer is accessing yearly one, then definitely he is going to get very less amount for the bill. Okay, now how the AWS will generate the bill, that's where storage classes comes into picture. While uploading the objects into S3, selecting the storage class is mandatory. To meet the business requirements of client, AWS provided several storage classes in the S3. To meet the business requirements of the client, AWS provided several storage classes. Now you see here, I'm going to this bucket, which is called Ashok IT S3 bucket. Currently, there is one file available. I want that file nothing but it is one object. One file is nothing but one object. I want to upload one more object. Click on upload, select the file name, select it, click on upload. Definitely is going to get very less amount for the bill. Okay, now how the AWS will generate the bill, that's where storage classes comes into picture. While uploading the objects into S3, selecting the storage class is mandatory. To meet the business requirements of client, AWS provided several storage classes in the S3. To meet the business requirements of the client, AWS provided several storage classes. Now you see here, I'm going to this bucket, which is called Ashok IT S3 bucket. Currently, there is one file available. I want that file nothing but it is one object. One file is nothing but one object. I want to upload one more object. Click on upload, select the file name, select it, click on upload. If you see permissions, public, accept, properties, yeah, inside the properties, storage class is available. By default, It is taking
Amazon S3
standard storage class.
designed for a different use
Frequently
cases.
accessed data more than once a month with
with
milliseconds access. If you are going to access more than once, if you want to access the data more than one time in a month, then it's better to go for standard storage class. Then it's better to go for standard storage class. Okay, when you go for standard storage class, then what is the amount they are going to charge? Currently, retrieval fees is nothing. For standard storage class, there is no fees. That is the reason they made it as a default class. When you are uploading any object into S3 bucket, then they will choose by default standard storage class. For standard storage class, they are not charging any amount. Here I have given this standard frequently access standard storage class. This is used for frequently accessed data. This is the default storage class. No retrieval charges. Availability 99.9%. Durability 11 nines, 99.99999 like this. Okay, minimum object size is 0 bytes. Okay, if you want to store the data and if you want to access the data more than one time in a month, then you need to go for standard frequently accessed storage class, which is called standard frequently accessed data. Now until here there is a standard IA, infrequently accessed data. Standard FA, standard IA. FA means frequently accessed. IA means infrequently accessed data. Once a month, if you want to access only one time in the month, whatever the data you store, you want to retrieve the data only one time in the month, then go for standard IA. Standard IA. Intelligent data with changing or unknown access pattern. You don't know how many times you are going to access the data, then you need to go for intelligent tiering process. You don't know how many times you want to access the data, then you need to go for intelligent tiering. Okay, now you see availability zones more than 3. Whatever the data you are storing in the S3 bucket, that data will be stored in the more than 3 availability zones. If one availability zone is collapsed, still your data is secure in the another availability zone. AWS is providing 99.9% availability. Now in the Mumbai, we have 3 availability zones. Some power failure happened in the one availability zone. Still your data will be available in the another availability zone. AWS will provide you that. When you go for standard storage class, it is going to store your data in more than 3 availability zones. If you go for intelligent tiering also, it is going to store in more than 3 availability zones. Standard IA, infrequently accessed data, it is going to store in more than 3 availability zones. There is one zone, recreatable, infrequently accessed data stored in a single availability zone with milliseconds access. Okay, here if you go for one zone IA, less amount you need to pay, but the data will be stored into one availability zone. Due to some technical problem, if the availability zone is down, then you cannot access the data. So if you are least bothered about your data, then you can go for one zone. Now Glacier. Glacier is a storage class which is used for archive data. Archive data nothing but historical data. Historical data. Okay, historical data means we will store it. We may access very rare. We may access very rare. My childhood pics are available. Maybe yearly once or for every 5 years I will see my childhood pic. Every day, every month I don't see my childhood pics. Are you getting my point, guys? Okay, here when you go for Glacier storage class, Glacier storage class is used for long-lived data. When you go for Glacier, minimum to minimum you need to store for 90 days. Glacier instant retrieval, Glacier flexible retrieval, once a year. If you want to retrieve the data once a year, then you can go for Glacier flexible. Glacier deep long-lived archive data less than once a year. I'm not sure. I will retrieve the data at least once in the year. Then I will go for Glacier deep archive. Glacier instant retrieval, Glacier flexible retrieval, Glacier deep archive different storage classes available. Glacier means which is a storage class to store the historical data. Historical data means I will store the data I may not access at least once in a month also. Such kind of data you will store in the Glacier storage class. Reduced redundancy, non-critical, frequently accessed data with milliseconds access, not recommended as S3 standard is more cost effective. Here, reduced redundancy is not recommended. AWS itself is telling that it is not recommended. It is not recommended. For each storage class, how they are going to charge also they are given. For GB, fees will be applied. Whenever you choose a storage class, you can read this table. This table will tell you all the details. This table will tell you all the details, how they are going to charge the amount for you. How they are going to charge the amount for you. Whenever you are uploading any object into S3 bucket, selecting the storage class is mandatory. By default, it is choosing standard storage class. For standard storage class retrieval, they are not going to charge any amount. They are not going to charge any amount. Glacier, it is for infrequently accessed data. For archive purpose, we are going to store it. For archival purpose, we are going to store the data in the Glacier storage class. By default, which storage class it is using? By default, it is using standard storage class to store the data. By default, it is using standard storage class to load the data. Are you clear with my point? What is versioning and what is storage class in the AWS? Are you clear with my point? What is versioning and what is storage class? Are you able to understand in the S3?
Yes.
Right? Yes. When you go for Glacier, they have given the difference here only. Glacier instant retrieval. Long-lived archive data accessed once a quarter with instant retrieval in the milliseconds. If you want to retrieve the data very fast, within the milliseconds of time, I want to access my data, then you can go for instant retrieval. Long-lived data once a quarter. That means for every 3 months, I want to access my data at least once. For every 3 months, I want to access data very quickly, faster, instant. I want to retrieve the data immediately. Then I can go for instant. Flexible retrieval. I want to retrieve the data within a minute. I want to download the data. It can take a minute to hour. Then I can go for retrieval. Okay. If you want to retrieve the data within the milliseconds of time, then you can go for instant retrieval. If you want to retrieve the data within the minutes to hours, then you can go for flexible retrieval. If you want retrieve the data, it can take hours of time. Maybe within 2 to 3 hours also, it can take to get my data. Then I can go for deep archive. Instant retrieval, flexible retrieval, deep archive. Deep archive will take hours of time to download your data. Flexible retrieval will take minute to hour. Instant retrieval means immediately.
Millisecond.
So that is the difference. Right? You understand why 3 different things are available in the Glacier? How quickly you want to retrieve the data, that it depends on your storage class. Instant retrieval means within milliseconds I want to download the data. Flexible retrieval means it can take a minutes of time to retrieve the data. Deep archive means it can take hours of data, hours of time also to retrieve my data. So based on your requirement, you need to choose the storage class. So for every object, storage class is mandatory. By default, it is taking standard access, standard storage class. Based on your requirement, you can select your storage class at the time of uploading the object. Got my point? So today we discussed about two topics in the S3, guys.
Versioning and
One is
S3.
versioning and the
Other
second one
is
is
storage.
storage classes in the S3. Are you good? Now, next one. There is a concept called transfer acceleration. There is a concept called transfer acceleration. Transfer acceleration is nothing but how quickly you want to upload the data. How quickly you want to upload the data. Guys, assume that I have 1000 GB data to upload. Assume that I have 1000 GB of data to upload. I have 1000 GB of data to upload. I want to upload the data to Mumbai region. Then my laptop is connected to internet. Now from my laptop, I am uploading the data to the Mumbai region through internet. That is fine. I'm in the India. Mumbai is also in the India. It will be little fast. Let's assume that I want to upload the data to USA region, New Jersey region, or I want to upload the data to Singapore region bucket. From India, I'm in Hyderabad. From Hyderabad, I'm connecting to Singapore region and I'm uploading the data to the Singapore region through internet. Network will be slow or network will be speed.
Network will be slow.
Singapore region, I'm in the India. Definitely the network will be slow,
India,
right?
the network will be fast.
Our network will be slow.
India,
our Wi-Fi,
our
internet,
network
or mobile data net will be available. That will be slow.
So AWS will be
Now,
super speed.
here, if you want to upload the data quickly, then there is a concept called transfer acceleration. You can accelerate your transferring process by using AWS internal network. Now see here, whenever you create a bucket, for that bucket, AWS is going to tell, do you want to enable transfer acceleration? When you go to properties, bucket versioning, encryption, intelligent tier, server, AWS cloud trial, event notification. What is this? Transfer acceleration. What is the meaning of transfer acceleration? Use an accelerated endpoint for faster data transfer. When you enable this transfer acceleration, AWS network will be connected for our system to transfer the data very quickly. That is called transfer acceleration. Now, if you are using your internet to upload the data to the S3 bucket, your internet may be slow. If you want to transfer the data quickly, then S3 is providing one concept called transfer acceleration. By default, that also disabled in the S3. If you enable the transfer acceleration, then AWS internal network will be connected to our system. Then data will be uploaded faster. Upload will be available. AWS will charge for that because AWS providing their network to you to transfer the data quickly. So when you enable the transfer acceleration, the data, your network will become very speed, then your data will be uploaded quickly to the AWS S3 bucket. But if you go for transfer acceleration, charges will be applied. But generally we are connecting to our network to transfer the data. If you want to upload the data quickly, then you go for transfer acceleration. When you go for transfer acceleration, AWS internal network will be used to transfer the data. Our network will not be used. Our internet will not be used. AWS will provide the internet for our PC. That internet is used to transfer the data quickly. That is called transfer acceleration in the S3. You understand?
Yes.
You understand my point, guys?
Yes, sir.
You understand my point? What is a transfer acceleration? You understand my point? What is a transfer acceleration? Transfer acceleration is used for using AWS network, is used for AWS network to transfer
AWS
the data
internal network to
quickly.
transfer the data quickly.
It is used for transferring the data quickly with the AWS network. With the AWS network. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? Yes. With this, we are clear with 3 topics today. One is versioning. Second one is storage classes, and the third one is transfer acceleration. In the tomorrow session, I'm going to tell you how to host one static website in the S3. How to set up one static website in the S3 that I'm going to discuss in the tomorrow session. Guys, today DevOps is getting started. Some people want to do the DevOps parallelly. So DevOps is starting at 8:30 p.m. I have given the Zoom link in the Telegram group. So please in the DevOps class. DevOps will take 45 days of time.